Good morning. My name is Vanessa Blanco, and I'm a recruiting manager at Express Employment in Doral, Florida. This is going to be the first of our Monday Morning Leadership podcast, where I'll be reading excerpts from the aptly named book, Monday Morning Leadership by David Cottrell. David Cottrell is an internationally known speaker, author, and business executive. He's written over 25 books about business, leadership, mentoring, including the best-selling Monday Morning Leadership. This book is about real management issues, advice, and solutions, but it's written in an entertaining manner. It's a story, there's anecdotes, so it's not your typical cliched manager motivational book. With that being said, here we go. 2 years ago, things were not going well. For several years, I had been a relatively successful manager for a Fortune 500 company, but now I was in a slump. I was working harder than I ever had, but I was going nowhere. I barely saw my kids, my marriage was suffering, my health was not the best. I was struggling in every part of my life. At work, my team was also feeling the effects of my slump. People were upset. Business was slow, real slow, and the pressure on us to improve performance was rapidly hitting the unbearable level. To be honest, I was ready to give up because my doubts about my leadership abilities were overwhelming the confidence I once had. My questions outnumbered my answers. What if I wasn't the right person for a leadership position anymore? What if I had been successful in the past because of the great economy? What if I was just extremely lucky? I was at a loss. I was at a point where I needed to talk to someone who would listen and offer suggestions without judging me. One Saturday on the golf course, I saw a friend of my dad's named Tony Pierce. Tony was a successful, semi-retired business leader who spent his time writing books and coaching top executives. I'm still not sure of his age. He looked only a few years older than me, but he was definitely light years ahead in experience. Success had not changed Tony one iota. His warm personality, athletic good looks, and charismatic personality were already legendary around our community. Before his retirement, Tony was a turnaround specialist, someone who was able to rescue companies from bankruptcy and lead them to profitability. He had been honored twice by various national organizations as Entrepreneur of the Year and was currently serving on a business council to develop a code of integrity for business executives. During the course of his career, Tony had made millions. He was highly respected in the community because he gave so much of his time and money to help others. His integrity and ethics were above reproach. My grandfather would have called him a real gentleman. My father had the utmost respect for Tony and had often called upon him to serve as a sounding board during his own business career. Tony was the type of person I aspired to be: wise, respected, confident, and highly sought-after speaker and mentor. But right now, I was a long way from becoming the person I wanted to be. When I graduated from college, Tony wrote me a congratulatory note that, for some unknown reason, I never threw away. Dear Jeff, congratulations on your graduation from college. You have completed a wonderful period of your life. Now the learning really begins. I know you will be successful in the field that you choose. If you ever want to talk about personal or business issues, I would be honored to allow you to learn from my experience. You just have to ask. Best wishes, Tony Pierce. Tony had not seen me at the golf course, and it had been a few years since we'd talked. I wondered if he would even remember me if I called him. I also wondered if he would take the time to meet with me, since he was in such high demand by executives of major corporations all over the country. After debating whether or not to call him, I finally decided that I had nothing to lose. My life was careening out of control, and something needed to change. I made the call. A little nervous as I dialed Tony's number, I was afraid that he wouldn't remember me, and there I'd be feeling like a fool. Even if he did remember me, a few years had gone by and a lot had changed since he'd sent me that note. Maybe his offer was no longer on the table. When he answered the phone, it only took a few seconds for my nerves to settle and my fear to disappear. As soon as I said, "This is Jeff Walters," he immediately knew who I was. He asked how Mom was doing since Dad had passed away, and then he said he was honored that I would call. I found it ironic that he used the same word, honored, that he had used in my graduation letter years ago. After some catching up, I reminded Tony of his note from several years ago. I told him I was having some challenges at work and that I would like his advice if he was still willing to talk with me. After explaining some of the problems I was encountering, he agreed to work with me only if I would commit to 2 things. 1, Tony said that he was not interested in helping me solve my problems. He was interested in helping me become a better person and leader, and that would require spending some significant time together. If I would commit to meeting with him every Monday morning for 8 weeks, he would be glad to help. 2, Tony also asked me to commit to teach others the lessons and experience that he would be sharing with me. He said none of my problems were unique and that the others could learn from my experiences. I was elated Tony consented to work with me one-on-one for 8 weeks. I asked if we could meet on Fridays instead of Mondays, but he said his schedule would not allow that, so I agreed to both of his requirements. After all, I rationalized, if the Monday morning meetings don't go well, I can somehow gracefully bow out of the rest of the sessions. As it turned out, those 8 meetings, my Monday morning with Tony, were the best meetings I have attended in my life. The thought of gracefully bowing out of the sessions never again crossed my mind. As far as my second commitment to teach others, that is my reason for writing this book. I am honored you are investing your time in reading Monday Morning Leadership and ask you, in turn, to teach others the wisdom Tony shared with me. Enjoy the journey, apply what you learn, and continue to grow as you share my Monday mornings with Tony.